diving a bit more into the business side. You started with network marketing, or at least that's where you really dove into for many years, right? What made you want to go down that path?
Honestly, I couldn't find a job. A guy who I had wrestled with in high school and I were at the gym, and he was telling me what he was doing with one of these network marketing companies. I never even heard the concept. And I got involved with Herbalife in '83. I made $800 my first month.
Nice.
And then I heard President Reagan spoke at my college commencement, and he talked about the fact that if you want to be successful in business, that what you do is you find a mentor. And that's what happened with him. He found a mentor in broadcasting in 1932. Wow, I'm already getting mentored by people. While I'm looking for a job, I'm actually getting mentored. I'm learning stuff. And then about 30 days after that, I went to my first actual business meeting in Hartford, Connecticut. And the fellow doing the meeting said these words: things to get better, you have to get better. The funny thing is, Jim Rohn, who I'd never heard of at that point in my life, wrote those words. And later on, I would meet Jim and spend a lot of time with him. That became who I was, where I said, let me stop making excuses about being born in the wrong family or the wrong parents or the wrong girlfriend. And let me start to focus on me.
Welcome to another episode of Patterns of Success, Happiness, and Freedom. Today is a very cool episode. We just talked about so much stuff, actually. I felt like my guest, John Solleder, is like an older version of me, because he would talk about, maybe you're going to hear a lot of names like in the personal development space: Bob Proctor, Chicken Soup for the Soul guy. I don't remember his name. I was like, wow, that's so cool. He met them because he's retired. Actually, not retired, but of retirement age. And just what he loves doing, which is talking about business and growth and talk about AI. He's 64, he said. And so I thought that was very inspiring, like to be still so active. And he's done a lot of things in business, grown multiple companies, works on with multiple companies in consultation form, and worked in MLM, was an athlete as well. My main takeaway from this episode, something I think that we're realizing, as Stephen Bartlett said very recently, is the power of how more and more importantly, connection between humans is becoming. Because AI is going to reduce the amount of connections that we feel, because we're going to be connected to our AI girlfriends. And so having that human connection is going to be even more powerful. And if you can create communities, if you can create connection, like what I do with this podcast, for example, then that's super valuable for people and they'll love your brand. Hope you enjoy this episode. Very fun, very dynamic, and let's go. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about the 3 words. First.
Okay, so pivot and agility. So basically, this book comes out December 19. This book comes out February 20. When you're a public speaker and you sell books, that was about the worst timing in history. So my first pivot was I pivoted to podcasting. That's kind of how my podcast was. And then agility, kind of came into play, where I had to learn, not only podcasting, but how to kind of be agile in terms of moving back and forth with my messaging, into technology, because I was used to doing 60 meetings a year in 60 different markets with live human beings. All of that's changed. And then last year, the other thing that happened was I really started using AI quite a bit, and not only with the podcast, but with all of my businesses, to do some of my writing, et cetera, et cetera. So those are things that most 64-year-old people are like, they're at the tail end of their business career, and they're kind of, waiting to, retire or die or whatever they're waiting to do. I'm like the reverse. I'm doing the stuff that the 24-year-olds are doing, Probably not as well, but I am doing them, and I'm conscious. More importantly, I'm conscious of them. So one of my messages is, if somebody is over 55, like, life is not going to end because of AI. Okay. And your business life doesn't need to end because your driver's license says you're a certain age. It's like, awesome. if anything, especially with all these tools and all of this technology that exists, if you use it properly, you'll make more money the next 10 years than you made the last 40.
That's where it's going. Awesome. Okay, we'll definitely dive into that, and I want to hear your perspective, especially, because it's, most people around you are not using it, like you said, at your age. But first, what I love to ask is always, what's something, because especially being a public figure, or, putting your stuff out online, what's something that you wish people knew more about you that maybe you don't talk about that much?
Probably not say I am an activist, but I am a
Hmm.
big time animal lover and advocate for animals. So much
Really?
so that I actually went vegetarian 8 years ago now, 8 years ago this month, and 2 years ago went vegan. Really,
Okay.
because my love is somewhat health. Health was certainly a reason, but
Yeah.
really my love of all animals, not just dogs and cats. But I'm a big time animal lover. So I occasionally put stuff on Facebook, and people are like, "Well, we didn't think like a big guy like you that was into powerlifting and judo and all that." Would like have this kind of diet. Like I do it not only for myself on the planet, but I do it because cruelty is cruelty, whether it's from a
Mm,
four-legged species or a two-legged species,
mm,
so that's something I wish people would know more about,
hmm. Well, why is that important for you?
Yeah, yeah. I've got four dogs and four cats only because where we live, we're limited. If it was
Yeah.
up to my wife and I, we'd probably have 20 of each. So yeah, we're animal people.
Also, I've got 5 cats.
Oh, wow.
Not always by choice because the mom just made babies when we got here. But yeah, it's very fun.
Well, then we go when you have kids too, because kids grow up with animals. They learn how to be kinder.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what made you want to do that? Yeah, be more focused on caring about animals or not eating animals 7 years ago.
Yeah, I just, it was a spur of the moment decision that I made for one
Well,
day that turned into now a journey. Not only did it help my health, help me lose weight, help me feel better, help some of the inflammation in my body. So I got something out of it, but more than that, I stopped, eating animals basically. So it helped the animal kingdom as well. And when you look at the water,
yeah.
if you ever really do a deep dive on this and you look at the water supply of the world and how
Hmm.
it's affected by animal production, it's like, wow. I mean, there's countries like in the Amazon, for example, where,
Yeah,
we're killing other human beings because of a lack of water so that we can eat a hamburger.
that's crazy.
Not really fair,
Mm. And so I'm glad it's still strong
you
for
know?
you. Awesome. Then diving a bit more into the business side, like you started with network marketing, or at least that's where you really dove into for many years, right? What made you want to go down that path?
I couldn't find it. Honestly, I couldn't find a job. A guy who I had wrestled with in high school, um, and I were at the gym, and he was telling me what he was doing with one of these network marketing companies. I never even heard the concept before.
Mm. Hmm.
Like totally unfamiliar with. Never heard of Amway or any of those companies. And I got involved with Herbalife in '83,
Mm.
and I made $800 my first month. And then I
Nice.
heard President Reagan spoke in my college commencement, and he talked about the fact that if you want to be successful in business, that what you do is you find a mentor. And
Hmm.
that's what happened with him. He found a mentor in broadcasting in 1932. And I said,
Mm.
wow, I'm already getting mentored by people. While I'm looking for a job, I'm actually getting mentored. I'm learning stuff. And then about 30 days after that, I went to my first actual business meeting in Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay.
And the fellow doing the meeting said these words. He said, for things to change, you have to get better. For things to get better, for things to change, you have to change. And for things to get better, you have to get better.
Hmm.
And the funny thing is, Jim Rohn, who I'd never heard of at that point in my life, wrote those words. And later on, I would meet Jim and spend a lot of time with him. But
No way.
more than that, that became who I was, where I said, let me stop making excuse
Yeah.
about being born in the wrong family or the wrong parents or the wrong
Mm.
girlfriend. Let me stop all that crap and let me
Mm.
start to focus on me. So I started to spend a lot of time at the public library, and I
Mm.
started studying people like Zig Ziglar and Mary Kay Ash and Earl Nightingale and Dr. Norman Vincent Peale and all these today we would consider to be self-development gurus. Back then they
Yeah.
didn't have a term, they just were people. But I
Really?
started to study what they had to say.
Huh.
And of course, met Jim Rohn a couple years later, met Tom Hopkins a couple years later, and all of those people had different things that they contributed to my career. But
Yeah.
more than that, I started to really focus on making me the brand as somebody who was very well read at that point. At that point,
Mm.
there weren't podcasts to listen to, and frankly, there weren't even that many books written on these subjects.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got what I could, you
Yeah.
know, and got everything I could out of it. But I really, like I said, I really focused on me. I went to the meetings and the trainings, and I started taking notes. I started asking questions of successful people,
Mm.
and all of that just kind of led to success, a little more success, a little more success. And then before you know it, I was teaching the classes, and,
Oh yeah.
people echo what I say now, in probably 100 companies around the world. They may not know I was the first person that said it or did it. Frankly, some of them do.
Yeah.
A lot don't because, there's a new generation of network marketers that are in their 20s and 30s, have no idea who I even am.
Right.
And that's okay. That's good. That's a testimony to duplication.
Yeah. Powerful. Did you have fun? Sounds like the
Yeah, it's been a fun career. I've been all over the world. I have not been, unfortunately, to Bali, but I have been to Australia. I've been to New Zealand. I've been in Japan. I spent a lot of time in Japan because I
Oh,
also used to play judo. So I would go over there for judo. The Philippines,
wow.
Thailand, on your side of the world. And then on the European side of the world, everywhere. I mean, there's no country I haven't been to
Yeah,
numerous times. And of course, North America. I just made my first trip to Costa Rica in April. Beautiful country.
it is.
Spent a lot of time in Colombia. And I mean, there's not a lot of places I haven't been. My most special place, though, out of 62 countries, my number one country, if tomorrow I was to move, would be Iceland.
Really? Huh.
What a place. I can't even, you just got to go. I mean, now you live in a remarkable place that I haven't been, and I hear too. But if you like fire and ice and contrast, okay, and waterfalls, by the way, they have more waterfalls than anywhere on earth.
Iceland.
And I was only two. I mean, it's a big country. It's like, it's this big. We were only to like this little part of it that my wife and I got to, but just beautiful. And like the contrast between the fire and the ice, is spectacular because you've got lava flowing thousands of degrees that'll burn your leg off. And then you got waterfalls that are freezing cold.
Yeah. I've heard it's one of the few European countries I haven't been to.
Worth the trip.
I need to go. You've done a lot of different things. And you mentioned that those who succeed are those that are able to pivot and keep on trying different things. What do you mean by that? Why is pivot so important?
Well, because a lot of people are not willing to pivot. Okay. A lot of people say, well, this is the way it's always been. And I'll give you an example. When I started in multi-level in 1983, business was based on talking to people. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. And you can still do that today. And then a couple of years later, stores like Kinko's and Office Depot opened, and you could get flyers inexpensively. So you could go in and you get a flyer printed out. You get like four flyers on one piece of paper. They would cut them for you. Very inexpensive, like $50. You get like 4,000 of them.
Okay. Oh yeah.
So flyers became, and then all of a sudden you wound up with cassette tapes a few years after that, where you could record your message and stick that in the mailbox or hand it to people. And then of course, DVDs came along, right? And CDs and DVDs. And then of course, the evolution of progress. So here's my point. If I still said, hey, I want to build my business like it's 1983 and I only want to rely on talking to people live,
So slow.
you and I wouldn't be having this conversation.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
So the pivot has to be that you have to be willing, as you evolve as a business person or a human being for that matter, that you've got to be willing to accept new technologies that exceed what you did previously. It doesn't mean what you did previously doesn't work. It just means that you have to be open to podcasting. You have to be open to using AI. You have to be open to using, Riverside, Zoom, etc. Okay. You got to be willing to do all those things and to pivot, like in basketball, right?
Yeah.
If I got my back to the basket and my teammate comes down the court, throws me the ball, I can't throw the ball in the net. If I'm still looking this way, I got to turn around and face the net and try to throw the ball. Right. And that's an example of a pivot. A lot of folks just don't want to pivot. They just, no, I'm set in my ways. It's the way I've always done it. Well, if you think that way, you're not going to evolve and you're probably not going to grow both as a human being and also in business.
Totally. I agree. I mean, especially with technologies, that's very important. There's a few sayings though. I mean, especially maybe for newer business owners, that you shouldn't be pivoting too much because you don't know what works. What's the balance you feel of like being focused, like trying to find the one funnel, the one business to work versus trying to pivot? Like
when something works, go with it until it stops working, whatever that is. Whether that means that you're going to do a Zoom call every afternoon at 12 o'clock noon, you're going to do a call for your team, and you will go from, the call grows and then all of a sudden people stop dropping off. Well, when you get down to like one or two people, you probably need to change the time of the call, right? Yeah. But if it's working, don't ask why it's working, run with it. A lot of times in business, we always think we can do better, right? Let me change this, and all of a sudden it stops working. So if it's working, you run it up the flagpole. You don't stop working with it until it stops working. And believe
Mm,
me, the marketplace dictates everything. Your distributors, your sales force, your customers, I don't care what you're selling. I don't care if you're selling locally or you're selling internationally. Your customers, they're going to let you know. And if you're
yeah.
network marketing, my distributors are my customers. They're going to let me
Right.
know, hey, John, we don't want to do this anymore. Believe me, they'll let me know because I just stop showing up. Then you got to figure it out. Okay, we got to do something else. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, perfect. That's actually a great point. And because there's so many shiny objects as well that you can just, this is the trap for many entrepreneurs too, like to want to try shiny objects, but good reminder to keep doing it when it's working, and then maybe test out a few things here and there, especially with AI coming up.
Well, and to that point, not to interrupt you, but you can't do them all. You know what I mean? It's like I'll give you an example. I've got a background in writing and technical writing. That's what my
Mhm.
my my degree is actually in journalism. So I've
Oh,
done a lot of technical writing over the years. So right now I'm using an AI service, okay, to basically take three different sales letters, and I've only put the first one together, okay, but
yeah,
three different sales letters that we're going to sample in the month of October. Three
yeah,
completely separate approaches. Now, just like Dan Kennedy, the great Dan Kennedy says, right, you test small. So these will be in
yeah,
500 increments, right? 500 people that will receive this, right? So if I go 0 for 500, 0 for 500, and 0 for 500, I know to modify the letters, right? But
yeah,
if I get, to me, a good return is about 3 to 5%. If I wind up with 10 or 15 people to talk to, then I'm
yeah.
happy with that because I know what
Mm,
to do with people once I get them. Follow? So to me, and this goes back to even my earlier career. I did a lot of direct mail in the old
yeah.
days where you actually would write a sales letter, you'd buy a list,
Mm.
you'd stick it in the mail with a pre-canceled stamp. So actual stamp. I mean, there was a whole process. You used green lettering, for example, on the envelopes. Okay. I mean,
Oh
there,
yeah.
there, there was a system. There was a system psychologically. People would go, oh, wait a minute. That doesn't look like my regular junk mail. Let me actually open the envelope. I mean, it was to get them to open the envelope.
Wow.
Engagement, right? Right. So these are
Wow.
things that the strategy hasn't really changed. What's changed is the ability A, to reach more people. That's one thing. But
Yeah.
B, to reach them in such a manner on a consistent level. And C, by the way, you can reach them a whole lot less expensive than we could in the old days.
Mm,
I mean, we used to mail out a cassette tape, for example. Like when I
that's
started
expensive.
my current multi-level company 29 years ago, I put together a cassette tape that talked about the fact that the medical discovery of the 21st century led me to walk away from $40,000 a month in residual income and start at zero again. Not the smartest thing I ever did, by the way. And that tape became famous. Okay? We had over 1 million of those
Mm.
tapes that went out in various forms. That and I didn't
Wow.
mail them all. People in my downline mailed them, and people in other downlines mailed them, and people in other companies stole the idea and used it anyway for different competing products. It's crazy. But here's my point: to take that tape, take it to a tape duplication house here in Plano, Texas, duplicate it, then me and my wife sticking them in envelopes in the wee hours of the night and then going to the post office. It was about $3. By the time I duplicated it, stuck it in an envelope, bought the mailing list, and
Mm.
stuck it in the mailbox. And then I hoped that the mailman didn't break them.
Yeah.
Okay. Because some of them, frankly, got broken as people could never hear them. Right. So here's my point. You compare that to today, where you can
Yeah.
use AI to reach hundreds of people through different
Mm.
mailing services that, like, you can't even compare the cost. It costs a lot less money, but you have to, once again, still figure out where are you going to spend your budget, because most small businesses are limited by budget, right? You
Yeah.
can't spend money the way that General Electric spends money. You can only spend money the way
Wow.
a small business can. So you got to kind of pick your battles, if you will, to say, okay, here's what I'm going to try, but I got
Yeah.
to try it long enough to find out whether it did or
Yeah.
didn't work. And if it works, then I throw gasoline on it to make it work better.
Yeah. 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 Very interesting. Um, Especially because yeah, must have even been hard to track the return there. Like you don't know if the tapes got broken or maybe they got given to a friend compared to like, ads where you can just say, oh, this is how many people saw this ad, just click there. That's
Exactly.
crazy. It's really fun to hear. Like you use like green lettering or that because
Oh,
that's the same as online video sales letters, for example.
I could tell you how to get checks to be delayed of people cashing them. Actually, I worked for a company. I won't tell you which one. But I worked for a company I was director of sales for here in Dallas.
Mm.
We were having a cash flow problem in the early years. So the owner and I used to fold the check corners and we'd stick them in the envelope. So when you got it, it couldn't go through the automated machine. They had to, the banker had to actually take it and hand stamp it, which took like an extra day or two, which brought us some cash flow so we could get more sales to pay bills. I mean, it's the stuff you do, the stuff you learn in small business that the normal person just shakes their head like you are right now and going, what? I mean, crazy stuff.
That is so fun.
But if you want to survive, and I don't
Yeah.
care what the business is, if you're in small business, it's a battlefield. It's worth it in the long run.
Yeah.
But in the short run, the reason so many people give up on their dreams, frankly, is it gets a little tough. Cash flow stuff, or they try something and it fails. Hey, I've had campaigns. I did a video once with the guys from the Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous TV show up in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I spent $60,000. And when we debuted this video, it was a video. I got this kind of applause. And I went, oh no, what did we do? Believe it or not, it was aesthetically so beautiful, Oscar.
Yeah.
But it didn't sell anything. It was just pretty. And I wanted people to buy boxes of these to give out to build their downlines with. And I got this. And I was like, I looked at my then girlfriend and I said, well, there went $60,000.
It's like,
That's when I started listening to Dan Kennedy when he said test small, by the way. I got the message. I got the message about 60,000 times to learn how to test small.
Shoot, man. Yeah. Especially if it's the first few times testing like that. Yeah. You got to get good at copywriting and marketing.
Yeah, you really do streamline the process. It's either that to go bankrupt and go get a job and work for somebody else and let them dictate. And I sure as heck wasn't going to do that.
Yeah. Once, how long had you been doing, working for yourself or doing a business?
April will be 43 years. A long time.
Yeah.
I literally started my first business in college. And I'm still doing all these years later. I'm technically a senior citizen now, and still doing business and still trying to figure it out.
People would, the impression that you're giving is that you would have figured something out, though. So what do you feel like you're trying to figure out?
Well, you know what? You're always trying to figure something out because there's always that next thing that you want to figure out in small business. You know what I mean? Whether it's a direct mail campaign, whether it's an AI campaign, whether it's a podcast that maybe talk about a particular subject, and you say, let me get 5 guests that are really authority figures in wills and trusts, for example. Okay. It's something I'm working on right now with a guy in Virginia who's an expert in with wills and trusts, right? With his business. Maybe I develop a series of that because it's something that most Americans are really bad at, getting a will, frankly. And you die without a will, boy, you got a lot of problems. You don't have a problem, you're dead, but you left your spouse or your kids with a big headache. And frankly, the state and the federal government will try to take your money or some of it. So at the end of the day, education. So these are things that I still am dedicated to, that I know a little bit about, not every subject, but the subjects that I do know about, I'm always talking about. I'm always talking about people taking care of their health better too. That's another thing. I'm a firm believer in, going to the gym, eating right, trying to get 7 hours a night of sleep, et cetera, et cetera. Your body, the good Lord gave you one body, try to keep it as healthy as you can. I gave up drinking on my 20th birthday. I haven't had a drink in 44 years. I had no desire to. I didn't really like to drink anyway. And I figured that out on my 20th birthday, that I wasn't, not only did I not like it, but I wasn't very good at it because I kept getting sick when I would do it. So I was like, why am I doing this? This doesn't make any sense. So that's one of the things going back to business, that's one of the things you figure out. Like if you're uncomfortable with something, find the things that you're comfortable doing and then take them vertical. Perfect example. I met Mark Victor Hansen a number of years ago. We were on a cruise ship with Bob Proctor. Great experience. So incredible speak. 7 days of just Bob Proctor, Mark Victor Hansen, Doug Weed. Unfortunately, a lot of these guys are dead now, but I got a conversation with Mark Victor Hansen, and I said, boy, I really love your chicken soup books that him and, Jack did. And he said, you know what the real brilliance of that was? No. I said, I really don't. He goes, we figured out how to go vertical. Because you think about it, they had a really good idea. Chicken soup for the soul was chicken soup for the soul. We all have a soul. But then it became for the dentist, for the chiropractor, for the garbage man, for the football coach, for I'm making this up as we're going. But my point is, in other words, they figured out they had a really good idea and it worked. And then they took it vertical into all these different professions, right? Dan Kennedy's done the same thing with his No BS books, for example, right? It started out in no BS for the entrepreneur, I think was the first one. And then it became No BS for this profession and that profession, where they kind of took some things from real professions, big professions, and said, let's talk about that, because there's enough folks out there that are going to hear their message. So that's part of being smart in business too, is taking ideas vertical. You know what I mean? It's like, once it's working, don't go for a new idea. Go for the vertical integration of that idea and wear it out. You know?
Also a powerful lesson. You know what's really funny is that you're like, I feel like you're an older version of me now. No, it's very cool, because I know all these people that you're talking about, but I don't know many people who are not around my age or entrepreneur who know that much. It's crazy that you met Bob Proctor as well. Like, I was listening to him in high school.
Oh yeah.
And
nice man, very, very, very nice. He passed about 2 years ago. Now he passed. Very nice guy. Very, very smart. You know, it's funny because I knew Jim Rohn, I knew Bob, I knew Zig Ziglar a little bit. He was a local guy here in Dallas, and I got to tell you, I knew Mark Hughes, the founder of Herbalife, well. Larry Thompson's still a good friend of mine, kind of the second in command at Herbalife. Most of these people were great people. I mean, they actually cared about people. You know, Tom Hopkins, another guy I met a few times. They really sincerely care about humanity, and that the people that they don't see you as dollar bill when you come to something that they're putting on. They see you as, how do I help my buddy Oskar to grow his business? You know, like they were sincere in that. And that sincerity is something that I hope I've had a little bit of too with people, is like, hey, I really want to help you. If I help you and I make money, terrific. But I can't think I just want to make money off of this person's efforts. I want to help. And this is, I think, why I've been successful in network marketing, and a lot of people aren't, is they're always thinking of themselves instead of thinking of the team. How do I grow the team? You know, how do I teach people? And like when I came out, this was a series of books, by the way. This was vertical. This was vertical integration. First one was 2010. Last one was 2020. And when I came out with this one, I put everything in it that I know how to do at that point in my life. Like the 10 penny principle, for example. Which is a simple concept of taking the left penny, 10 pennies, put them in your left pocket. Every time you talk to somebody, move one to your right pocket. Still works today. The only difference is it might be by Zoom versus live, right? And a friend of mine in Virginia said, I can't believe you put all your best ideas in there. Why wouldn't I? It doesn't take anything away from me if people know what I know. If anything, it professionalizes my industry. You know, so that's the way I've just always believed, is like, hey, help enough other people. And Zig Ziglar said this, right? You know, help enough other people get what they want, you'll get what you want in life. And that's pretty much.
That's awesome. So you could retire now if you wanted, but you're not going to. How do you spend your time now? Like, I mean, most people who they retire, then they might just like hang out, maybe go to parks or watch TV. But how do you spend your time?
You know, I met a man many years ago. I was working for a short period of time. I worked for Metropolitan Life Insurance Company in New York City. And there was a remarkable agent with a very funny name. And you're going to laugh when I say his name. His name was Mehdi Fakazadi. And I'm not sure. He's Persian. And I'll never forget, we were in the same office for a little while. About 6 o'clock in the morning, I had written a policy, and I came in all excited that I wrote a policy on a contractor at like 5 a.m., right? I get there, Mehdi's there. He's the number one agent at the Metropolitan. $100 billion company, number one agent in the world. And I'm like, Mr. Mehdi, what are you doing here? It's like 6 a.m. He goes, I wrote a policy already. I go, yeah, me too. You know, like we're both, high fiving that we both wrote policies. And I'm like 22 years old and he's about 60. And I said, and I asked him the same question you just asked me. I said, why, you could be in bed right now. You could be playing golf. You could be hanging out with the grandkids. Like, what are you doing here? Like, you don't need the money. And he had a great answer. And I kind of apply it to my own life right now. He goes, you do all these years of business and it's a grind and it's up and down. And then all of a sudden you get to a certain age where it's easy. So what it is now is I'm the accumulation of all of this information, be it direct mail, direct sales, network marketing, insurance. I mean, all these things that I've done for all of these years and I've studied. It's so business is pretty easy today. Now, that doesn't mean I make money easy necessarily, but it means when somebody comes to me, like, for example, I had a company from Korea come to me today with a challenge that they have. And one of their top people, actually, one of their top sales reps. And I had an answer. She goes, how do you figure this stuff out? I said, I just got my hair cut. I said, well, it's all the gray hair. But it is. You've accumulated all this information that if she had asked me that question 20 years ago, I would not have had an answer. I had this very concise answer, exactly what she needed to do. And she was like, how do you know that so easily? I said, experience. So,
Huh.
so just, just like, just like that old insurance agent, it's kind of like, what do I do? Well, I do business because I like doing business. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily do it for the paycheck. Okay. I don't turn down the money, by the way. It's like to make money. That's for all making money, but I don't do it because, oh my God, if I don't do this, my family's not going to eat. No, my family could eat for the next 5 generations with what we've done. But more importantly, I want to bless other people too. Okay. Like, for example, I coach a lot of young people, a lot of 20 somethings. And it's funny. My son was a pretty good athlete, and a lot of the guys that he trained with are now in their 20s, and they'll come to me and they'll say, hey, I'm starting my first business. What do you think? I got an idea. What do you think? I'm thinking of going and getting an MBA. What do you think? And they'll come to me, and I've got no relationship with them. I'm not related to them. I'm not an uncle but they'll come to me because they know I've been self-employed all these years.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that I have the answer for them. All I do is give them, hey, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? Right.
Yeah.
Well, I love to do that. I love to help people, and give them some guidance and some wisdom that I didn't have, by the way. My dad was a construction worker. My mom was a secretary. So I didn't grow up in a business family where I could have went to my parents for business advice. I went to them for other things, but I couldn't go to them for business advice, frankly, because they didn't have any business experience. So it's like, I've got all this business experience. But when a young person comes to me and says, what do you think? Well, let me give you my 2 cents for what it's worth. Doesn't mean you have to do exactly what I say, but let me give it to you because I like to give it to you. So that's one thing. And I mean, I've got some hobbies. I'm still doing some writing. I'm using AI to write some different things, doing some things, like I said, in specialized areas, doing some things with wills and trusts with one guy, doing some stuff internationally in the Philippines and some other places that I'm doing some other projects. So I'm doing a lot of international stuff, which means I get up real early in the morning because your part of the world already was, it's tomorrow where you are. Some of the people I'm working with, it's already tomorrow. So, but I'm not killing myself. If I decide I want to do something tomorrow different, there's no pressure at this point in my life.
That's very awesome. It's good to keep
it's been a great journey.
Yeah, good to keep the fire. No, of course not. Good to keep the fire alive. What was the question I had in mind? No, whatever, it's gone. Especially, yeah. Because right now I'm almost reaching 30, 29. Our business is doing fairly decent. We're like a team of 15 now. But now that you have all that wisdom, aside from getting a mentor, what would be something that you would tell people to do to, like, I guess, succeed faster, or just enjoy more of life as well?
Well, a couple of things, because the world's changed today. Okay. I was at a thing with Ray Kurzweil 2 weeks ago that Steve Aoki, the famous disc jockey in Las Vegas, he had a program where he raises money for brain health. And he had Ray Kurzweil, who's really one of the people that kind of originated AI. And Ray put up a slide on how many calculations are being done now per second by AI. And it's faster than he and all these other great mathematicians in the world and actuaries originally thought. Now, that's good news on the one hand, right? If you're Jeff Bezos or you're Elon Musk, that's great news because you have businesses that are already there. You're already using this stuff in a huge way. But for the average individual, not necessarily good news because your job may be going away. There's 300 million people who will lose jobs because of AI over the next 2 years. 2 years, not 20 years, 2 years. Now, that's not good news, right? But here is the good news. Because we live in the information age, okay? And I'm not saying it's necessarily easy to go do something else. I don't want to be that cold about it. I get it. It's painful. But there's ways to educate yourself using all of this technology where you're not going to be left behind. You're not going to be a victim, okay, of the success of AI. You're going to work with AI in a profession or a manner that you gain rather than lose. And if you think about it that way and you see the world that way, you'll succeed. Now, for somebody your age, man, I mean, you're talking about the internet on steroids. I mean, this is the next few years, there'll be fortunes made in the next 10 years, frankly, that may surpass the two guys I just mentioned. Those guys are keep getting bigger and bigger on their end. But at the end of the day, there's going to be people we never heard of. I can give you an example. NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA is a company I've been familiar with for about 10 years. Well, most people don't know who NVIDIA is. Ironically, they're building a plant like literally down the street from my house. They spent $700 million on this plant. And you take NVIDIA, the CEO of NVIDIA is now one of the richest men in the world.
Yeah.
I can't tell you his name neither, and you probably can't tell me his name either. We'd have to
forgot.
Google it. I think he's Korean. I
I
forget.
know how he looks like, but I don't remember his name.
Yeah. I see him on CNBC a lot. But here's my point. 10 years ago, nobody who knew who NVIDIA was. Most people listening to us right now are going to go, who's NVIDIA? How do you spell that?
Mhm.
Okay. And all of a sudden, NVIDIA has become almost $1 trillion company. And most people never even heard of them. And by the way, if the CEO is making that kind of money, guess what? There's a lot of people making a lot of money within that particular company, both as employees and investors, right? So it's a good thing for the economy. There's going to be more NVIDIAs. There's going to be more companies that we have no idea today who they are, that a year from now, if we had this conversation, Oscar, we go, hey, have you watched such and such? Wow, it's stock valuations, whatever. And like a year ago, I didn't even know who they were. That's what's happening, but it's happening that much faster than it's ever happened before. And that's what AI is going to do. We got a little expression. I work with some people in AI. It was like AI or die. I mean, it's just a reality. Okay. I mean, it's like, if you're not going to use it, if you think it's a fad and you ignore it, it's going to eat your lunch. Don't let it be part of it. Go with the flow. You don't want to be contrarian against AI because you're not going to win. You got to go with the flow with it.
No, I mean, I used a GPT from ChatGPT from a business mentor of mine to write a sales letter that I then put into another AI that makes a beautiful sales letter. I just had to tweak a few things. That was like 1 or 2 hours total. I mean, a bit of brainstorming, but for your sales letter, like it's easy. It's crazy.
And the funny thing is, like when you've written books and all that, we always think that we're Shakespeare. All of a sudden I get the stuff back from AI. I go, boy, that thing picked up a lot of my mistakes. And I'm like, that thing, the robot just wrote it a lot better than frankly, than I could. And it sounds that much better. And it's like, wow, we're going to go with the robot's version of it. So, but that's the world that we're living in. And look, there's one of two things people can do listening to us. You can embrace the changes that are happening and you can recognize them for what they are, or you can ignore them. If you ignore them, the consequences could be really bad. So don't ignore what's happening. Use AI, learn about it. A year ago, when I first started learning about AI, and I'm no expert in it by any stretch of imagination, I know how to use it for what I'm using it for. But when I recognized it and said, look, this thing's not going to go away. You need to use it. And all of a sudden I started using it and I said, it's extremely user-friendly and it's only going to get better and better and better. And it's capable in so many different arenas that I deal in small business. Well, so I'm a small business guy. You're a small business guy, but there's people listening to us that run big companies. There's people that maybe run government type of stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So there's an application of this in every walk of life. Just recognize it and use it and go with it and don't fight it,
Yeah, 100%. Well, just before we start wrapping up, what's a AI tool that you're enjoying that you want to maybe talk about?
Oh boy.
Shout out.
I've been using Glock lately.
Oh yeah.
I call it Glock. It's actually Glock, but I call it
It's
Glock.
Grok. GROK.
I get it confused. I bought my wife a pistol and it's a Glock and it's right. It's Grok.
Grok. Yeah.
We've been using that. We used also one of these companies that I work with in San Antonio to actually use a scraper. Okay. A scrape for sales letters. Okay. So like when I do the sales letters, they actually use a scraper basically to say, okay, here's applicable businesses where it'll actually do keyword searches, for example. Okay. So I'm not sending a letter to somebody who goes, why are you sending me a letter about a will? I'm not interested in a will. I sell donuts. What I'm saying? So you're in the right audience, for example. That's something else for using. For our podcasts, okay, we use it somewhat for our AI outreach, okay, where we've got a system out of with a guy in Las Vegas that actually will compare keywords of other podcasters, for example. So we'll actually use AI to introduce ourselves to those podcasters and just say, hey, here's my keywords, here's your keywords. Let's meet up and engage. I'll use your audience, you use my audience. And some people like it, some people don't, we use it for that. And we're finding multiple uses for it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
and more to come. Like I said, guy, because I don't even think we've scratched the surface yet. And in small business stuff, necessary evil.
Yeah. Yeah. The fear that people have is just like losing authenticity or the human touch.
Let me give you. I got to give you one other. Oh, one of our businesses is in the insurance field,
Mhm.
and we do what's called final expense insurance, which helps people prepare basically for burial. Okay, it's
Mm.
like small amounts, early senior citizens. So I was trying to explain it to somebody one day, and I said, "Let me just write a book on it." I
Mm.
used AI. There was a company. It cost me whopping $29. Believe it or not, like
Mm.
these books cost me thousands and thousands of
Yeah.
dollars and years to put together. All of a sudden, I'm like, let me just put in all the keywords that I know and see what this thing spits back at me. I had a 10-chapter book done on a Saturday afternoon. Now I did go in and change a few things, okay,
Yeah.
that were
You have to.
a little off kilter. But we did that, and we put it on johnsolleder.com on my website for free. Just as an education thing. It's about, I don't know, 70, 80 pages. I don't even remember, 70 or 80 pages long. Hey, I wrote the thing. All I did was feed the AI. And for $29, and by the way, I could do multiple books. I just haven't bothered to do so. But my point is, that's the kind of technology that exists. So whatever your field is,
Yeah.
you can go, hey, let me go put something together for my customer to understand what I do better. Right.
100%.
So
What
I
was it?
think,
What was the tool called? The book writing one?
I got to look it up. It was something I got an email and I was like, is this a scam? Okay, $29. Worst case example, I canceled my credit card. And all of a sudden it's like, gave me all of these tools to build with. Even gave me covers, by the way, of the book.
So
Okay.
nice.
It gave me like 7 or 8 different covers with the name that I chose. And now I'm forgetting the name of it. I got to look at it. This is being 64, by the way, this time of night. But like we
Yeah.
used it to create a book that basically became something that some of my customers actually, when they have questions, I just say, hey man, just go to my website and read this little booklet, and
Easy.
whether they do or not, I don't know, but it looks good. And of course it's another book I've authored, and it's not one that I'm overly proud of, but at the end of the day, I didn't write it to, be Stephen King. I wrote it because it's information that helps to educate somebody as to why they should buy this particular thing. And I'm going to do the same
Yeah.
thing, by the way, with some will and trust information. I just have to sit down with this guy from Virginia. He's been on vacation and put it together.
Wow. Crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Well, super fun. Actually, I'm sure we could keep going for a while, John. But we do need to start to wrap it up. If people want to, well, they can download your book. Or what's the best thing that you'd like to give people if they connect with you? And where should people connect with you?
I've tried to simplify that too. Just johnsolleder.com.
Mm.
SOLLEDER.com. Our books you can get on Amazon. We partnered up with Jeff Bezos. He's pretty good at delivering books around the world.
Yeah.
That's a joke. And they're in Spanish, by the way, if you have Spanish speaking
Nice.
listeners. Okay. They're in Spanish also. And they can download them as well. There's digital downloads that they
Perfect.
can use. What we didn't talk about in those books though was AI, because frankly, it existed, but I was not aware of it at that point. So that
As much.
we
Yeah.
can talk about. My podcast is under my name on YouTube. We're
Yeah.
on Rumble and a couple other things now too, but mostly on YouTube. Just
Cool.
John_Solleder or John Solleder, or I got my T-shirt on, leaving nothing to chance. You can get it there too. But just if you Google me, you'll find me.
Perfect.
I'm out there. I'm around.
Awesome. John Solleder. Awesome. Great energy. Love talking with you. Super fun.
Hey, likewise. Been fun.
Amazing.